Good evening. This is a homily for the 33rd Sunday of the year. There's only one more Sunday in the year, as you know, and that finishes the liturgical year, and then we start the season of Advent, and that will lead us up to Christmas. So at the end of this year, the liturgical year, we are looking at literally the end of the world. In the readings today, and then in the readings next Sunday, which will be the Feast of Christ the King. So in this set of readings, we have the prophecy from Malachi. For you who fear my name, there will arise the Sun of Justice with its healing rays. But he started this prophecy with the phrase, the day is coming, blazing like an oven. So obviously there's a massive threat here, and the end of the world is going to be a terrifying time. But for those who are justified, they will survive. The psalm then, the Lord comes to rule the earth with justice, sums up what the end times are all about. There are various activities that it asks of us, such as singing praise to the Lord, joyfully before the King, literally welcoming the coming of the King, and then finally do all this before the Lord, for he comes to rule the earth. That's the kind of more of the information that we get about what the end of the world is going to look like. Then we have Paul's letter to the Thessalonians, the second reading, and Paul is explaining how he lived a model life among the Thessalonian community. Now this sounds like a massive change, but in fact it's the same theme. It's just taken down to an individual community. This is the way one has to behave so that one is able to face the end of the world as a righteous person. In other words, behave like Paul did, and then you will have a really good chance of a future as the world begins to end. But it's just a set of instructions, small behaviors that would best prepare us. We wanted to present ourselves as a model for you. We instruct you that if anyone was unwilling to work, neither should that one eat, and so forth. Stop acting like busybodies. All injunctions to basically good community behavior. The gospel acclamation then captures more of this attitude that we heard so simply presented by Paul. And the attitude is, and this is based on Luke 21, stand erect and raise your hands because your redemption is at hand. It's a joyous time. It's a time of the extraordinary fulfillment of all the struggles that we have been through in the world. This is the great wonder that is going to happen for the righteous. Your redemption is at hand. Lastly, then, we have the gospel, which comes from Luke's gospel in this case, and Jesus, we're back to an individual event again. Jesus is walking with his disciples, and Jesus says, as they walk past the temple, obviously a very beautiful temple, this was Herod's temple, all that you see here, the days will come when there will not be left a stone upon another stone that will not be thrown down. So in other words, as solid as you think this world is, it's all going to be swept away. Another aspect of the ending of the world. His disciples then say, well, what signs will there be? And he basically describes a whole lot of catastrophes and basically says, don't think that these catastrophes are the end time necessarily, because, as he goes on, before all this happens, they will seize and persecute you, and so on, and so on, and so on. So, in other words, he's predicting that before the final ending of the world, there is going to be a time of great persecution. And the reason for the persecution is that it will lead to your giving testimony. In other words, you are going to be literally forced to stand up before the world and testify to your faith. And he says you're not to prepare your defense beforehand. I myself shall give you a wisdom in speaking. The Spirit of Jesus Christ will be with us in these final times, which will be very turbulent and very upsetting, very threatening, and yet we should realize we walk with Christ because he is going to be coming as the Lord of the earth. And as was hinted at in the psalm and made very clear in next Sunday's readings, and so he tells us, you will be hated by all because of my name, but not a hair on your head will be destroyed. There is the great consolation to carry us through these terribly difficult times, so that, Jesus again, by your perseverance you will secure your lives. In other words, sticking to being faithful, to following the will of God in every situation, that's what's going to get us through. Jesus will be walking with us as we endure what looks like a very frightening time. Thank you.